Resuming debate, the honourable member for Timmins James Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very proud to rise in the House, as I always am, to represent the people of Timmins James Bay on an issue that I think is fundamentally at the heart of what we're about as parliamentarians. The fact that we are here to debate a motion that had to be brought forward because of the Prime Minister's cavalier attitude towards the working people of this country, the senior citizens in this country, that our Prime Minister, who shows regular contempt for the House of Commons, shutting down debate, ordering secret meetings, we've sort of almost grown used to it in his attitude. But I think people across Canada were somewhat shocked that the Prime Minister would go to talk to the millionaires in Davos and tell them that our senior citizens are living high off the hog and, we've got to get this thing in order. Now, this is a government, Mr. Speaker, that had a $13 billion surplus and ran it into the ground before the deficit even started. This is a government that under this Prime Minister, their spending and their ministerial offices went through the roof. They made the poor old Liberal Party look like they were they were so careful and studied and wore black cloth and ashes. They were so careful after the way the Conservatives spend. I mean, that's some piece of work to be able to get away with, Mr. Speaker, and that was done under this Prime Minister. So blowing money is not a problem with them. When it comes to blowing money on boats, and fighter jets, and prisons, and the Human Resources Minister yesterday told us that she was worried about a foreign invasion. A foreign invasion, Mr. Speaker. The Fenians haven't come across the border out of Buffalo since 1863 or 64. Now, I know there's been a few times the Boston Bruins have come over and caused some fights in Toronto, but that's not, Mr. Speaker, a need for us to take that off the backs of senior citizens. But the Prime Minister decided to open this debate, and I see my colleagues in the Conservative Party are feeling a little ruffled. And damn well they should be, Mr. Speaker, because for the last week my phone has been ringing with senior citizens, and not just senior citizens, Mr. Speaker, but people who are working, younger people, and people who know that what they're seeing from this government is an absolute sham and an absolute scam. Because they know that there's no such thing for most working people as a private pension anymore. Most of the people I know are working on contracts, going from contract to contract. We hear the Conservatives wax on about unutilized capacity of RRSPs, as though people just, if they were a little sharper, a little smarter, they actually might save for their future, as opposed to the reality is that, Mr. Speaker, when you're raising a family and you're going from job to job and you're trying to put something away, when you fall in between contracts, that's your savings gone. That might be 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, or a year. That's your savings gone. So people need some form of security. So we have a few setups that were put in place, and the most effective was CPP. And I know some of the ideologues on the Conservative backbench have a real problem because it was a public system that was set up. But it works. It's low cost. It's something that gives people something that's effective. The problem is that CPP hasn't kept up. So, as we've been saying in New Democrats, this is a system that works, allow people to save more, and then people won't have to rely on guaranteed income supplement or the old age security if they have something to fall back on. We see many people who tried to save RRSPs, and some have done very well. And of course, if you're doing very well financially, your RRSPs might be okay. But I know many people in my riding, Mr. Speaker, who've lost 30–40% of their value of their savings since the 2008 crash. So now they're starting to try and find out from us in our offices what's happening with old age security. Mr. Speaker, it's not just that the Prime Minister decided to create a crisis for all the working people who are now in their 30s and 40s wondering about what's coming, but it's the lack of a vision for what's actually happening on the ground with senior citizens. In Timmins James Bay, Mr. Speaker, I have large regions of rural population of senior citizens who are out in old farmhouses and their kids have gone down south and they come into my office. They can't afford to heat that place anymore. They don't have enough money. I can't tell them to move into town because there's no such thing as seniors housing. It's not available. Or long-term housing, long-term care. There's costs that are being put on these families even just to heat their houses. So whatever savings they have are eaten up. So there's this idea, it's almost right out of Charles Dickens. Well, they can work longer. Aren't there no workhouses? We can make them work till 67. Well, Mr. Speaker, when you drill down what that means, there are people who can retire, and they might not have everything they need to retire, but at 65, 66, they can continue working, doing some work. And I know some senior citizens who like to do that, and it's good. They have incredible experience. But there's a difference between choosing to work and being forced to work. And when you're forced to work because you can't make ends meet and you're 66 years old, then there's a whole other set of related issues that start to come in. We see larger health care costs. We see all kinds of stress on the family unit and family members who've moved away, who are having to come back to try and deal with their aging parents. Now, Mr. Speaker, this was not a debate that you start in Davos by launching a trial balloon or saying something off the top of your head. That's not what a responsible Prime Minister does. A responsible Prime Minister, well, he had the whole election. He had the election to talk about what their strategy for pensions was. And you heard zip. But now they've come back and they've created this unnecessary crisis. And they're feeling very defensive today, Mr. Speaker. You can sense it over there because they don't want people paying attention to this, just like yesterday when they shut down the debate on the pooled pension RSP plan. They don't really want this getting out because when you get back home and you sit down with people and you tell them that it's their future that's on the line, well, you get a whole different response, Mr. Speaker, and I think this is something this government knows very well that they're feeling a little touchy on. And I would certainly say if they want to go on a tour, we can go on a tour together. Let's go visit some of these communities. Let's put their plans on the table and see what people think. See what people think who are 45, who are getting by on a little bit of an RSP here and a little RSP there, but unable, Mr. Speaker, to actually have savings to say, well, you know what, you're going to be the sacrificial generation. You're going to take it on so that this Prime Minister can tell his buddies in Davos, you know, that $6 billion we blew on the corporations at Caterpillar in London, hey, that was a good investment, but those seniors, we're getting them in line, don't you worry. Mr. Speaker, my grandmother always told me when I was a kid, she said, Tory times are hard times. And that's a fact. This is a government that comes from a miserly stock, and they're as miserly now as they were in my grandmother's day, Mr. Speaker. And I think when you see that they've decided that they're going to go to Davos and blame our senior citizens for the financial mess that they're creating, well, they got a fight on their hands. And I think this is a fight that Canadians know that these guys are going to lose. Now, Mr. Speaker, when we're talking, just for folks back home, maybe if you're a bit younger back home and you haven't been involved in pensions, you'd realize that we're talking about a very small amount of money. We're talking about $491 a month, which is the average on guaranteed income supplement. We're talking about on OAS, I mean, this is like, what, $500 a month, Mr. Speaker? My God, these ministers blow more on a lunch than what they're going to give to a senior citizen at $500 a month. Our famous minister from Durham, who spent $1,300 a day taxi rides. That's what she hired these limos and drove around Toronto at $1,300 a day. Boy, oh boy, she did that 5 times around the city of Toronto. That would be the OAS for a senior citizen for a year. But the Prime Minister never said he was going to make the member for Durham have to be responsible. No. He decided that it was going to have to be a senior citizen that had to pay. Mr. Speaker, this is about priorities, and this is a government that has established that their priorities are for their friends, for their buddies, for their ministers who drive around in limousines, and the people who get $500 a month on OAS, well, they're just going to have to suck it up, and that's not good enough.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for St. John's East.
Mr. Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for his remarks. You know, when people talk about the old age security system and the incomes of people, I just want to put on the record and ask the Minute member to comment on the fact that a study done recently on the Atlantic provinces showed that if in Newfoundland and Labrador, 65% of the seniors relied on old age security or GIS as their sole source of income. Now, they're claiming they're not going to hurt them, but they're going to hurt even if they don't hurt them, they're going to hurt their families, their children, and their grandchildren, and the young people in this country who may have to rely on this. So, they are invoking fear in the minds of people. We're wondering whether they're going to come clean or not, but they kind of let the cat out of the bag today. They were given 6 or 7 opportunities to tell us whether they're going to do this or not, to raise the age to 66 or 67, and they said, we're not going to touch existing seniors. So the answer is clear and obvious that they are going to, in fact, raise the age that you can get OAS to 66 or 67 or 68. We don't even know. That's the unknown. But we do have an answer. They're going to do it. We just don't know who they're going to do it to, and that does invoke fear in the minds of people of this country.
The honourable member for Timmins James Bay.
Thank you. I thank my honourable colleague for his comments and his experience from Eastern Canada. And this is another part of the demographic that we look across our country, because we have different labour patterns. In Northern Ontario, Northeastern Ontario, we're a boom-bust economy. And I've seen in many of my communities. I remember when Sherman Mine went down, when Adams Mine went down, when all the Agnico mines went down, when the iron ore mines went down. And you had a working population then of men who were about 48, 49 years old on average, and suddenly there was no work for them. Oh, they offered them retraining, but in a single mining town, they didn't have enough for their pensions. But by the time the next boom came around, well, these men were a little too old to get hired. So these men that would have normally paid into pensions ended up with their wives on old age security and GIS. And that's what happens, because there is no such thing as absolute security and income. So you see gaps where suddenly the savings that you're making one year, you lose. And when you lose that and you lose your savings, you start to look to 65 as something that you've got to reach out to and hold on to. So, you know what, when I get to 65, we'll be okay. And you're just saying, this government is saying, nah, we're going to put that bar just a little bit further. So, hey, if you're one of their friends, or you're the type who can afford a $1,300 a day limo ride like my good friend the minister from Durham, well, hey, you're okay, because you'll get through. But everybody else, it's too bad for you, Jack.
It being 5:15 p.m., it is my duty to interrupt the proceedings and put forthwith